Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is official Steezie, and I'm coming to you with something sort of new, actually. I'm really excited about this, actually, and I think that you guys are going to enjoy it. So, let me get straight into it. This is a map that I've made for the Kingdom of Astal. Yeah, A-S-T-A-L. I named it. I'll call it whatever I want. Say however I want. Astal. So that's the kingdom. And let's, essentially, I'm doing a video for my players if they want to watch it. But I want to make this for everybody. If anybody wants to watch it and follow along, I'm planning on doing campaign diaries after every single week that we play. We're starting a brand new D&D campaign in this kingdom. So the world is homebrewed, but the things that we're doing basically follow the rules. I'm basing everything off of the Monsters Manual, Volo's Guide to Monsters, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the handbook for the players. So the rules essentially are typical D&D 5e rules. We're not changing anything. We're not doing any kind of special classes or anything. We may do some of that in the future, but a lot of the people that are playing are first-time players. I'm a first-time DM, and if you couldn't tell already, a first-time map maker, because this is terrible. The maps I made I made this one months ago, about a month ago. And since then, the maps I've been getting a lot better. Stick around, those will all be available. But I wanted to talk to you guys about this. And before I go any further, let me say this. If you guys subscribe and hang out and check out the channel, every time I'm doing a campaign diary, if we're talking about a dungeon that we delve into, and I have a map for it, I'm going to be throwing those up in Google Drive, and that will be linked in the description. So this map itself, the Kingdom of Astal, as is right here that you're looking at, I'm going to put this in the description. So by all means, go and download it, use it, follow along, play in this world. All of my notes from each session I'm going to be putting up and available for everybody, so you can take this and go and play it in your campaign. If you're a new DM, I'm a new DM. I'm brand new, so all I've done is read the Monster Manual and the Dungeon Master Guide, and I've watched a couple of videos online to some really great people, and I've stolen ideas from them, and I've just basically put a campaign together. So if you're a new DM, check this out, and if you're a seasoned DM, be really nice whenever you talk about how bad it is. So I'll be putting all my notes up, all of my maps, everything that I have, it's your alls. I'm going to put it out there for free. All that I ask is that you make sure that whenever you use it, that your players have fun. That's the most important thing about D&D, is to have fun. So I don't want to make these videos really long. I just want to jump straight into this and show you what's going on. So, the Kingdom of Astal is a fairly young kingdom, only about 200 or 300 years old. Actually, I take it back, it'd be about 400 years old. For a fact, I can tell you that. It's at least 400 years old. So here's just a really at-glance timeline. About 200 years ago, there was this thing called the Great Goblin War, okay? And the Great Goblin War ended with the Deleon Order of Knights, these knights, these holy knights that believe in this only one God. There's multiple gods in the world, but they only believe in this one God. And that actually plays into the campaign I'm playing with a bunch of Christians. And so the idea is that there is only one God that you truly get power from. So if someone's a cleric, or if they're a patron of a specific god or deity, if that one god is, if their patron or whatever is the one god, then they actually get a little extra bonus than if you were to choose another pantheon or another demigod or something of that nature, because those demigods aren't the one true god. They're demigods, that they're not quite, even though they portray themselves as full-fledged gods, they're not. Something sort of neat and unique to this. So almost 100 years after the Great Goblin War, this is what happens. They drive the goblins up over the Kike Mountains. So right here, Zerwood didn't exist. It was just sort of up here a little bit. Over the last 200 years, this has all grown down into the kingdom. So they drove the goblins up and over the Kike Mountains into the kingdom of Yentis. And so Yentis is on just west of these mountains. And so then peace comes upon the land, and the Deleon Order, you see they have temples here and here. These little things right here, that's their signet. The Deleon Order, they're sort of all around the kingdom there. They have these temples, and about 100 years after the Great Goblin War, they just decided to leave. They went north to the Northern Kingdom, and they just sort of packed up and left. And about the time that they did that, Yentis just got done fighting the goblins that they had driven over the Kike Mountains, and so Yentis is mad at Astal and wages war with them. And so so the Order of Knights, the Deleon Order, is gone. The main protectors of Astal, just left. And then Yentis decides to come over and attack Astal. Astal was able to negotiate with Yentis, and they came to a peace treaty. And the peace treaty included different exports and things of that nature, and they were able to, but they weren't really happy with that. Like, Astal felt like Yentis attacked them for no reason. Yentis thought that Astal was being super dumb for sending all the goblins over there to them, making them deal with that problem for 100 years. But at the end of the day, they came to a conclusion, and the war ended. Sorry, the war ended sometime around 30. Well, 30. You don't know the years. The war basically lasted for about 50 or 60 years. Towards the end of the war, the king was assassinated of Astal, and one of the guys that had fought I can tell you this. The war lasted. I'm sorry. I'm literally looking at a timeline, and I couldn't even get the dates right. The war lasted 40. Okay, so it literally lasted for 68 years. At the very end of that, the king that was in charge was assassinated in Astal. So the peace treaty happens, the king is assassinated, and a lot of people thought that Yentis did it. Some people thought that it was internal, but no one really cared. The king was sort of a coward. He relied on the Deleon Knights, and then whenever they left, he didn't really know what to do. And so a lot of people were upset that when they even did a peace treaty and so on and so forth. But that's the politics. About that time, a guy named Matthias becomes king, and Matthias is known for fighting in the war against Yentis, and he would ride griffins. He would tame these griffins, ride them in the battle, and destroy his enemies. So King Matthias, the Griffin Rider, he's a human, that's his name, and he became king, and at this point, that's 38 years ago. So he became king 38 years ago. And then, so that brings us up here. So for the last 38 years, there's been peace inside the kingdom. The regions aren't fighting with each other. There's been peace with this kingdom and other kingdoms, which is a pretty big deal. Let's talk about the Deleon Order, and then we'll talk about the different regions. So the Deleon Order is this sect of holy knights. They're faithful to the one true God, and they fought for the king of Astal. They have sort of some secret rituals and some different things that the party's going to be trying to uncover. The Deleon Order sort of weaves its way through the entire campaign, and they served for 250 years, so 50 years before, or 150 years before the Great Goblin War. They were serving the king, and then they fought the Great Goblin War, and then 100 years after that, they left. And so, they served for 250 years before the Order sort of just up, and they packed up and left. They went to the land north. Many rumors surround why this happened, but really there's no answers. The temples sort of dot the landscape now, and some of them are well preserved and kept up by locals. Some of them are just totally ran down and are now even being used as hideouts and places where bandits and monsters and different things roam and just sort of are. So that's the Deleon Order. And let's talk about the people of power. We have King Matthias, and then there's regions. Let's look at a map of the regions. Let's click on this. Boom. Okay. These are the 5 regions of Astal, and each region has a duke and an archmage. And so Sustar has a dwarven duke. His name is Gudon. Fascus has a dragonborn duke whose name is Malkoth. Jotharia has a human duke whose name is Ravenfield, and that's their, Ravenfield, which is a weird name for a human, but he's a bard. I don't know. Eprana, I didn't make the characters that became the dukes. Eprana has a elf as their duke, and let's see, Lord Dupree is the Duke of Eprana, and then each duke has an archmage. One of the main NPCs that the party is running into a lot is this NPC named Blois Alatar, and he's the archmage of Fascus, and he lives in Erelon. And so the way the campaign starts is he sends them all a letter and says, "Hey, friends," he's a traveling wizard, travels around the kingdom and sort of does different things. The archmage sort of like an ambassador for for their region, travels around, and he's met these people. He's like, hey guys, I think it's a kid. Hey kids. He's met these people. He's like, hey guys, if you're interested, you've showed some interest in being an adventurer, going out and gaining wealth and seeing the world and learning the ways of the world and like traveling around. If you're still interested in that, meet me in Hamal. I'll be there for about a month. And so sends this letter out, and then the party meets him in Hamal, and he gives them a quest to go on together as a party. And that's how the adventure starts. He's telling them about he's afraid that Lord Gudon has had a threat on his life, and he's worried about his friend Ganon the Lesser, who is a wizard up in Wellspring, and there's all these different things going on, and so he sends them on a quest to check on Ganon, and along the way they experience all sorts of fun mishaps. So Zerwood, I don't want to give too much away, Zerwood is a region that didn't exist 200 years ago. Zerwood would have been up here in this area, and the mountains would have been pretty open to the region down below. Zerwood is a massive, I'm talking massive forest. It is miles and miles deep, and it sort of separates the Kingdom of Astal from the Kike Mountains, all except for down in the very south corner there where Sustar is, and Sustar sort of touches that, and so there's some mining operations in Sustar where there isn't anywhere else in the kingdom. Zerwood has sort of become the place where like mischief happens, like even like bandits don't go in there, because that's where like all the monsters are. You have goblins and orcs and ogres, and you have hags, and there's tales of dragons in the Kike Mountains, and there's all these different things going on, and wolves and dire wolves, and just one thing after another. There's all of these different things. So Zerwood is sort of a scary place. The adventurers will find themselves there often, though, for quests and for different things. Maybe they're just seeking the experience of being adventurers, and so they'll travel in there. The world is very much a sandbox. I'm going to use the word guided sandbox because I sort of have some quests to get them going. But once they sort of get going, it's whatever they want to do. They can choose to go one place or not, or whatever the case may be. So that's sort of the way that works. I have a whole document that I want them to read, but I know most of them won't read it because, reading's for squares. So that's a good gist of that. I don't want to give too much information about what may happen, just because they are going to be playing, But I will say this: I plan on doing a campaign diary almost every single week, and we're planning on playing on Thursdays, so I'll probably get those done Thursday night, Friday, and then put them up on YouTube somewhere between Saturday and Monday or Tuesday. Here's the thing: every single campaign, every single session that we do, if we're in a dungeon that session, or in a town that has a map, or whatever the case is, I'm going to put all of my notes online for free, and so subscribe to the channel and check that out, because I want you, because it's just a free resource. Even if you don't use the story, even if you don't use the specifics there, you'll have a dungeon map that you can use. Your different rooms, and you can go in and write your own descriptions if you want, or you can go in and tweak the ones that I have. It's all going to be available for you guys, and I'm just putting it all out there. This is I borrow heavily from other people. When I say borrow, I mean sometimes just completely rip off and steal ideas, but that's because I'm a great dungeon master. Actually, I say that jokingly. I'm not a dungeon master. I've never done this before. My party is a basically brand new party. There's a bunch of people that have played before, but not really in 5e, and so we're playing in 5e. Sort of for the first time, a lot of us are, and I have never really DM'd before. I'm pretty good with improv stuff. I like to talk, and I like to write stories. I'm a very novice writer, and I can use Photoshop, so I enjoy making things like this map. And so I sort of put those skills together, and I was like, hey, let's play Dungeons & Dragons, and I'll DM. It'll be a lot of fun. And so we'll see how much fun it's actually going to be. A little bit more on the map, and then I guess I'll sort of close before I beg you one more time to subscribe and become, a patron of mine. I would say that, the map features not a whole lot of water on it. There's a lot of water out here. You see, this is all like a big ocean out this way, and then the land continues on to the Yentis over here. But there's just this one big river called the Krill River, and it flows into this lake. which the name of the lake I don't have. It's in the notes. I just don't have them in front of me. So the lake is sort of an interesting place. Lots of mystery surrounds it, and there may even be, wink wink, hint hint, nudge nudge, an underwater temple there that the players will have to discover and pilfer through. So I say that, they'll totally forget before we get there, so I'm not worried about it. And with that said, one more thing about this world. I haven't decided this yet, but I think we're gonna do it. I think in like the big cities, the big port cities, there's gonna be a coliseum in every single city where people fight like big birds. That sounds funny, but like a giant owl. Like people are gathering and fighting with these giant. Like, so imagine like Pokemon. Remember, like they stood in this big coliseum, and like one guy you stood in the box, and you had the arena, and like your Pokemon would fight inside of it. I just imagine that, but with like a giant hawk and like a giant owl, or like a giant raven and a giant eagle or something, right? And people are fighting these, and you can place bets, and it's there's actually stats for these things, and they actually roll and fight against each other. I think that may be something that we do. I think that seems like animal cruelty, but I feel like it seems sort of neat. Like it gives this world something cool that maybe that they haven't ever seen before, and it sort of builds this in-game economy where they can bet against and sort of win or lose. I think that's really neat. I like that option for them. So basically, I'm a brand new DM. If you're a brand new DM, or if you're thinking about becoming a DM, which you absolutely should, everybody should be a DM. There should be, instead of having a lack of DM, we should have a lack of players. All of this content is yours to use. The maps, the stories, everything about it. And if you get into it, if you start using this stuff and you have questions, hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on Twitter, hit me up on Facebook. Put stuff here in the comments, in the comments, the chat, right? Just check all this stuff out. Here's the thing, if you want to support my channel, you can do that through Patreon, and this is the thing, just $1 a video goes such a long way. You get so much great content for that, and I get to keep doing what I love, making really cool content, and giving that to you guys. If you don't do nothing else, if you don't want to follow me on social media, it's all that stuff's in the description, and also share this if you know someone that's thinking about being a DM, or if you're a player and you're like, hey, I kind of like the concepts this guy's going for. Suggest this to your DM, send him the stuff, or you yourself become a DM. You should be a DM. Everybody should be a DM. We should have a lack of players versus a lack of DMs. If you want to know how to run this material, I'd be happy to show you the stuff that I use. We're going to be doing maybe some mapping tutorials as I'm making a dungeon. I may show you guys some of the stuff that I use. I just do everything in Photoshop. None of it's hand drawn. I'm not very skillful, but I'm getting better. So I would encourage you guys to check this out and share it with your friends, please, and subscribe, because I'm going to be giving away free content. Hello, subscribe, free content. You can't beat that. So check that out. And one more time, I'm going to end it right here with the different regions sort of displayed for you guys to see that. And until next time, I am official. Oh, I just broke something. I am official Steezie, and we will talk to you guys then.